Ooh, but have you heard of path-specific counterfactual debiasing? A few years ago, I was giving a talk at an AI ethics conference in Barcelona, and I ran across a researcher named Silvia Chiappa who wrote this paper. Okay, I lied. It's actually called Path-Specific Counterfactual Fairness. For the people that have no idea what we're talking about, check out this comment. Zero hate to you, not calling you out. I just love a good question. I made a video for those that are just joining where I talked about algorithmic discrimination and certain algorithms that are using race and using gender to make discrimination worse in society. The specific example that I gave comes from page 83 of this book, Race After Technology by Dr. Ruha Benjamin, where she gives an example of a predictive policing algorithm. To be clear, we also have search algorithms that fall under the same problems, and we have hiring algorithms, and we have healthcare algorithms, and many of these algorithms learn bias. Is what a big chunk of what this channel is about. Your comment points to a response that I've heard lots of people say, including at that conference in Spain. If I'm reading what you're saying correctly, what you are saying is, well, the algorithm might be biased, but it's only biased because of the data that we gave it. So if you have a predictive policing algorithm and the predictive policing algorithm sends more police to black neighborhoods, maybe the black neighborhoods are just more criminal, you might be thinking or saying. Can you use the same logic in the case where Amazon's hiring algorithm was throwing out women's resumes? The AI was just telling us what the data said. Effectively, the AI learned the wage gap. It learned that higher earnings were correlated with masculinity, and higher earnings it correlated with success, so it started throwing out women's resumes. What is the role of a creator like you who works to build an AI system once you discover that it is doing a sexist thing? To throw your hands up and say, well, it's just what the data said, it's just what the machine did, misses one of the critical components of what these machines do, which is like microphones, they feed back into themselves. Dr. Noble helped me understand the concept of algorithmic radicalization. Dr. Benjamin also discusses it in the context of the carceral surveillance state, but the first time that I ever saw it published so far was in Kathy O'Neill's book, where she talks about how these AI systems feed into themselves. And as she says, they define their own reality. Let me explain that in terms of predictive policing specifically. If an algorithm's outputs become part of its inputs, like the microphone speaker situation, it can make the problem worse. It actually is not just an algorithm that is seeing the world, but creating the world around it. Said differently, you will not find crime in a neighborhood where you are not looking. And if your predictive policing model tells you to go to one neighborhood and it sees crime in that neighborhood and not in another neighborhood, that data then injects itself into the model, and the predictive policing algorithms press harder and harder to surveil black neighborhoods more. So people who create AI systems can't wash their hands of the impact of their technologies, because they're not just neutral in the world. They, as Satya Noble explains again with algorithmic radicalization, they are making things worse, which is where path-specific counterfactual fairness comes in. Chiappa lays it all out. This video is already longer than I want it to be, but in short, when I spoke to her and when I read her paper, I gleaned this. There are certain attributes of people that are historically sensitive and legally protected. You cannot choose not to hire someone because they're gay, for instance. So if your model, your AI system, is starting to make hiring decisions based on somebody's sexual orientation, that's legally not allowed or ethically not allowed. So taking off a math hat and putting on philosopher hat, there's a theory of ethics called contractualism, which is a way of understanding what our obligations to each other are. Simplest example, the Hippocratic Oath. A doctor has a contractualist obligation to a patient to save their life. They can't just neglect that duty out of a sense of mehness. The same thing is true of people like you who are creating AI systems that will have a drastic effect on the world around us. And if you think drastic is an oversimplification, literally look at politics right now. There's radicalization happening everywhere, in part because of social media algorithms that are doing feedback loops. For people who don't work in AI, I'm going to do this fast. If I'm understanding this paper correctly, what Chiappa is saying is train the model, flip the sensitive attribute, and then retrain the model to find the mathematical amount of discrimination that your model has. run the hiring algorithm, flip everybody's gender, figure out how sexist your algorithm is, and then mathematically speaking, fix it. I'm trained in philosophy. I'm not trained in machine learning. I know that it's more complicated to do that than it is for me to say it. If you do that, you have effectively created a colorblind algorithm or a gender-blind algorithm. That is a step forward. Is it enough? I argue no. From a contractualist understanding or a deontic understanding, when you are an engineer of the most powerful kind of technology humanity has ever discovered, it isn't enough to just do no harm. That is too anemic a moral obligation, in my opinion, which is why I believe in reparations. Like, whoa, this video is so long, and you were just asking me about the biased machines and the data architecture. One of my all-time favorite authors is Brian Stevenson, and he discusses the prison system in particular as related to like surveillance state and all these sorts of things. If your machine is making racism within the prison system worse, at best you are like living with the dereliction of your artificial intelligence duty, and at worst you are complicit in the prison industrial complex. Okay, have a great day. Bye.